What happens when a person with a history of mental illness decides to stay in one of the most notorious and spooky hotels in Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles, police are looking into the bizarre death of a young woman from Vancouver.
It is absolutely bizarre.
It was later yesterday that the coroner positively ID'd
With a disturbing development in the search for a young Vancouver woman in Los Angeles.
What mysterious circumstances transcribed between the two that led to one of the most gruesome and mysterious deaths in the city's history? Today on Crime Diaries, we head to Los Angeles to explore the case of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam, also known as Lam Ho Yi in Cantonese, was a 21-year-old Canadian student enrolled at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. Born and raised in Burnaby, she was a native of the region. In addition to being a kind Canadian who came from a lowly background, she was well known among her friends and family. Before she was born, her parents, David and Dina Lam, moved from Hong Kong to Canada. They were the owners and operators of a family eatery named Paul's that catered for locals with wholesome Canadian and Chinese cuisine. Elisa had a wide variety of hobbies, including reading, playing video games, traveling, and psychology. She was considered to be a nice and nurturing young woman who was frequently regarded by others around her as outgoing and talkative. Elisa was also a strong student. After all, she had graduated from high school with honors. She did, however, have a sensitive and helpless side, much like the majority of us. After enrolling in university, Elisa's habit of withdrawing inside herself whenever she felt nervous, depressed, or afraid started to feel more natural. She started to have trouble meeting her academic deadlines and slipped behind in her classes. She frequently thought she was behind her classmates in her academic studies and compared herself to them. As a young adult, she also pondered her goals in life. She was not confident that the choices she was making for her future career were the best ones. Around this time, she was diagnosed with depression. As she entered her second and third years at university, her mental health continued to deteriorate, and she found it increasingly difficult to balance both her full-time studies. It was during these years that she was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a mental health condition that causes you to feel either completely elated or completely depressed. She had been prescribed several medications for her mental health issues: Wellbutrin, lamotrigine, quetiapine, dexedrine-spanciol, and venlafaxine. According to her family, who reportedly kept her mental illness private, Lam had no history of suicidal tendencies, although one report claimed she had previously gone missing for a brief period. Lam started a blogspot blog called Ether Fields in the middle of 2010. Over the course, she uploaded descriptions of her life, particularly her battle with mental illness, along with images of models wearing trendy attire. In a blog entry from January 2012, Lam bemoaned having to abandon multiple classes due to a relapse at the beginning of the current academic year, which left her feeling, quote, so utterly directionless and confused. She included a line from the author Chuck Palahniuk in the heading of her essay, "You are always tormented by the feeling you are squandering your life." She utilized that passage as the blog's epigraph. Lam was concerned that having so many withdrawals would make her transcript appear strange and prevent her from being able to complete her studies. A little over 2 years after Lam had started blogging, she announced she would be abandoning her blog for another she had started on Tumblr, Nouvelle Nouveau. Elisa decided to take a break from school and go traveling in an effort to get a clear break from her moods and to try to determine what she wanted out of life. Elisa enrolled herself out of university in late 2012 because she wanted to visit the West Coast of America. She reasoned that perhaps spending some time apart might help her gain some perspective. Although her family had expressed concern about her traveling alone, the young student was determined to make it happen. Lam found a way to compromise by making sure to contact her parents each day of the vacation to let them know that she was okay. For her trip to California, Lam traveled alone on Amtrak and intercity buses. She visited the San Diego Zoo and posted photos taken there on social media. On January 26th, she arrived in Los Angeles. After 2 days, she checked into the Cecil Hotel near downtown Skid Row. Initially, things were going well until she stopped responding to her parents on July 31st. This was the day she was expected to check out of the Cecil Hotel.
Thank you for calling the European-style Cecil Hotel.
The Cecil Hotel, located in downtown LA, had a reputation for death. More than a dozen murders and suicides have taken place in and around the Cecil Hotel since its 1927 opening. Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, was said to be seen at the Cecil days before her murder. The hotel served at times as a temporary residence to serial murderers Richard Ramirez and Jack Underweger. People largely dispels its reputation as cursed by digging into the problematic socioeconomic history of the area, and because the hotel functions partly as low-income housing. The Cecil Hotel, on the other hand, is situated in a particularly gloomy neighborhood of Los Angeles known as Skid Row. One of the many causes contributing to the area's rising crime rate is that Skid Row is an unofficial containment zone, which was established in 1976 and is still debatable. When her parents finally decided to contact the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, after a protracted period of silence from her, her family quickly took a flight to Los Angeles to assist with the search. Police search teams with canines investigated the hotel's hallways and the downtown area after learning that Lam had left all of her possessions, including her baggage, prescription, and identification in her hotel room. A few things were revealed as a result of staff interviews, door-to-door canvassing in the area, and inquiries made to locals working at businesses. Lam was given a shared room on the 5th floor at the hotel at first, but after 2 days, her neighbors complained about what the hotel's attorney would later refer to as some unusual behavior, as Lam was transferred to a room on her own. Amy Price, the manager of the Cecil Hotel and stay on Main at the time of Lam's disappearance, claimed that Lam had been locking the door to her room and requesting a password for admission, as well as leaving notes for her roommates that stated, "Go home" and "Go away." Lam attended a live Conan taping in Burbank a few days before she vanished, but security ordered her out due to unruly conduct. Outside the hotel, Katie Orphan, manager of The Last Bookstore, was the only person who recalled seeing her that day. She was outgoing, very lively, very friendly, while getting gifts to take home to her family, Orphan told CNN. Elisa talked to her about what book she was getting and was trying to decide if the book she bought would be too heavy for her to carry as she continued traveling in February. Police decided they required additional information and public data on Elisa Lam a week after she vanished. Her face appeared on flyers that were distributed locally and online in connection with a missing persons case. The next day, LAPD held a news conference to help increase public awareness of Elisa's missing person case as word spread via the media and the public. They found nothing, though. They decided to make the 4 minutes of startling elevator footage of Lam available to the public on February 14th because they had no leads at the time. This is when things started to become really strange. The hotel video showed Elisa Lam in one of its elevators on the date of her disappearance, acting rather strangely. In the pixelated footage, Lam can be seen stepping into the elevator and pushing all the floor buttons. She steps in and out of the elevator, poking her head out sideways toward the hotel's hallways. She peers out the elevator another few times before stepping out of the elevator entirely. The 21-year-old appears frantic and paranoid in the 4 minutes of footage. The last minutes of video shows Lam standing by the left side of the door, moving her hands in random gestures. Nobody else was captured on the video except Lam. The video drew worldwide interest in the case due to Lam's strange behavior and has been extensively analyzed and discussed. It was reposted widely, including on the Chinese video sharing site Youku, where it got 3 million views and 40,000 comments in its first 10 days. Many of the commenters found it unsettling to watch. Several theories emerged to explain her actions. One was that Lam was trying to get the elevator car to move in order to escape from someone who was pursuing her. Others suggested that she might be under the influence of ecstasy or some other party drug. When her bipolar disorder became known, the theory that she was having a psychotic episode also emerged. Other viewers argued that the video had been tampered with before being made public. Besides the obscuring of the timestamp, they claimed parts had been slowed down and nearly a minute of footage had been removed. This could have been done to protect the identity of someone who otherwise would be in the video, either related or not to the disappearance. The following days, so many spoke of Elisa, yet no one heard from her. That was until February 19th, the 20th day that she was missing. The hotel's visitors started complaining about the poor water pressure that day, which resulted in a heavy reception. Some people afterwards said their water was dark in color and tasted strange.
The water did have funny taste.
An employee of the hotel's maintenance department named Santiago Lopez was sent to address the issue, but instead, he discovered Lam's body in one of 4 tanks that were on the roof and supplied water to the hotel's guest rooms, kitchen, and coffee shop. Lam was seen face up in the water through the open hatch. According to a statement by the chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department, the tank in which Lam's body was found had to be drained completely and then cut open from the side to remove her 5'4" frame. Nobody knows how Lam's corpse floating lifelessly next to the same clothes she wore in the surveillance video ended up in the hotel's water tank, or who else might have been involved. Hotel staff told authorities that Lam was always seen by herself around the hotel premises. The Los Angeles Coroner's Office announced on February 21st that the victim had drowned accidentally, with bipolar disorder playing a significant role. Lam's body was bloated and just slightly decayed. The majority of it was greenish, with some marbling and skin separation visible on the abdomen. No signs of physical harm, sexual assault, or suicide were present. Testing for prescription pharmaceuticals found in her possessions, as well as over-the-counter medicines including Sinutab and ibuprofen, were detected. There was a very minor amount of alcohol, approximately 0.02 grams percent, but no other illicit drugs. The concentration on her prescribed pharmaceuticals in her system, according to investigators and specialists, suggested that she was either under-medicating or had recently stopped taking her meds. Although the investigation had established how Lam had passed away, it had not previously provided an explanation for how she had entered the tank. Only staff members have the passwords and keys to the locked doors and staircases that lead to the hotel's roof, and any attempt to force them would ostensibly have set off an alarm. She may have gotten over the security procedures by using the hotel's fire escape. Others questioned whether she could have entered the tank on her own, in addition to how she got on the roof. There was no fixed access to the 4 tanks, so hotel staff had to use a ladder to view them. The tanks were all 4 by 8 foot, 1.2 by 2.4 meter cylinders supported by concrete blocks. They were protected by heavy lids that would be difficult to replace from within. The hotel employee who found the body said that the lid was open at the time. Following all of the rumors and discussions, the announcement surprised and grieved her family, friends, and the millions of people who were eagerly awaiting her homecoming. Only one thing was certain: the young Elisa Lam was dead, but no one knows what actually happened to her. Even though the sudden demise of young Miss Elisa Lam was a shock to us all, the circumstances surrounding her death were very mysterious as well. But one thing was certain: she was a mental health patient, battling with diseases like depression and bipolarity, and society could have been more cautious with her. It's hard to believe the person who was smiling and happy a short while before could meet such a tragic end a few moments later. We hope she has found peace by the grace of God. What are your thoughts about the murder of Elisa Lam? Tell us in the comment section. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. This has been Crime Diaries, and until next time, don't be another statistic.